Hello, I'm Dr. Lipi Roy, and welcome to my show, Health, Humor, and Harmony. Today's show is another special Super Bowl edition, as I'll be speaking with former NFL quarterback, Fox Sports TV host, and star of the reality show Meet the Peetes, the amazing Rodney Peete. Husband to the talented actress and activist Holly Robinson Peete, and father of 4, Rodney has done it all. He'll talk about his multiple injuries, including concussions, playing through pain, all the painkillers, the psychological stress of being a pro athlete, and much more. And as someone who's played in the Super Bowl himself, Rodney's going to tell me who he'll be cheering for in Sunday's big game. Let's get started. Well, hey folks, it's Dr. Lipi Roy, and welcome to my show, Health, Humor, and Harmony. I am so in awe of our very, very special guest. Just in time for the Super Bowl, I'm going to be talking to NFL quarterback, former NFL quarterback, Fox Sports newscaster, and reality star, the one and only Mr. Rodney Peete. How are you, my friend?
I am doing great, Dr. Roy. How are you?
I am doing well. I'm in New York City and it is freezing cold. It is 8 degrees
Yeah,
Celsius. And with the wind chill, it feels like minus 20. Where are you and how are you?
I am doing great. I am in sunny California, LA to be exact, and it's about 72 degrees, just so you know it's sunny right now.
Yeah, no need
Yeah,
to rub any of that in, Rodney. Thanks. I appreciate that.
you got it. You got it. Much as I can do.
Well, good for you. Enjoy the sunshine. Well, folks, I don't think many people really know how you and I first met. So I live in New York now, but I used to live in
Yeah,
Boston. I used to
yeah,
teach at Harvard Medical School, and I saw patients at Massachusetts General Hospital. You also were at an event, a very special event. It was a special collaboration
hmm
that was started really by the Harvard concussion study in collaboration with the National Football Players NFL Players Association, and you were there. You've been very open about your experiences, not only as a long-time 16-year NFL career, is that
yeah,
right?
yeah.
16 years in the
16.
NFL, your multiple injuries, but that's how we first met. So why don't we
Yeah,
start off by maybe just talking about your history in the NFL and maybe some of the head injuries that you've been very open about.
yeah. No, it's great that you bring that up because we did meet there at the Harvard Player Study. I am still actively involved with them, and at that time, I think that concussions and CTE were really coming to the forefront where you couldn't bury it anymore. And you've known this for years, being a doctor and studying the brain and studying the body. Um, but the NFL has been so far behind on that. It's really been about pretty much brushing it under the rug when it came to head injuries and concussions and how, you know, from an NFL standpoint, it's no big deal. But from a life standpoint, it was a really big deal. And I think the two came to a head back when we met, which is, I think, why the Players Association and the Harvard Medical School got together and started to do this study is because we want to study the brain. And studying the brain is not just studying the brain, as you know, it's studying the whole body. There's a lot of factors in. There's guys that, during the time that I played and even now, um, that have multiple concussions that are fine. And you have guys that have one concussion and they're messed up for the rest of their life. So you never know. And it could be something that's hereditary, it could be something other than just getting hit in the brain. But if you don't study the entire body, you won't really know. So that was kind of the lure for me to really get in because it was looking at head injuries, looking at brain from a different perspective, which I enjoyed because as a football player, yes, you play for a certain amount of years and you think, okay, I'm going to do this forever, but you really don't do it forever. You are retired in your 30s, most of us, except for Tom Brady, who wants to go until he just retired, so he's in his
Yeah,
40s. But
exactly. But that's
most of us,
unusual, right? To play into your 40s,
very,
right?
very unusual. So most of us retire in our 30s and we're still relatively young. So what do you do for the rest of your life? to live the rest of your life. So you going into this sport, understanding the complications and what it can do to you, I think is very, very important. And then being able to take care of your body afterwards is so important, so much more important than when you're playing.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that very unique insight and really special insight that not many people have. You're right in that I come at it from a different angle, but this is where we kind of join, right, in terms of our passion for our health. And I say all the time when I give talks, that the human brain is the most complex machine known to humankind. It is capable of so much, and we as scientists, researchers probably understand at best 20% of the brain. And to your point, Rodney, that you can't just study this one organ, you got to study the whole body, because the brain really affects everything that we do. We both know that it affects how we think, how we feel. It can, and people who have concussions and other, TBI, traumatic brain injury, about CTE, traumatic encephalopathy. There's so much more that we in the medical and scientific community do not know. We've learned a lot, but there's so much more. And look, the Super Bowl is going to show us soon that there are very few events that are as popular as the Super Bowl at the height. But football, I mean, I don't need to tell you, you come from a whole family of football players and coaches. It's just in your blood. It's in the genetics of this nation. So the more safer we can make this sport for especially young kids that are playing, and to your point, you're right, their career really ends on average. Is it the average quarterback or is it the linebacker? I can't, you know this better than I do. Like, it's 5 years. Isn't that the average length?
Well, the average player is 3.5 years.
Oh my
On
God.
average. Yeah. Average player is 3.5 years. And then, position by position, it goes a little bit different. Quarterbacks tend to last a little bit longer because we don't suffer as many hits.
Right.
Well, during games, but during practice as well, that we last a little bit longer. But yeah, 3.5 years is the lifespan of a football player on the average. So it's rare for guys to play 10 years,
Yeah.
10 plus years,
Let
in
alone
this
20.
sport. Yeah, exactly. So it takes a lot of toll on your body.
And you've also been very open, Rodney, about people that you knew in the league who are now former players who now have CTE, other effects of traumatic brain injury, and who've either are not doing well from a health standpoint, physically, mentally, psychologically, and sadly, people who have taken their own lives, who've died by suicide. You've been pretty open about that. What are your thoughts in terms of where the future is as far as football and player safety and health safety?
First off, it's a tough question, but it's a real question that has to be addressed. And I think for so long, the NFL didn't really want to address it, right? And especially with guys that are done playing, it's like once you're done playing, it's, we'll give you a little here, we'll talk to you a little here there, but we're not going to be in your life and support you as much as we should if you're not in uniform. And a lot of guys struggle after they're done playing. As you get older, with anyone, as you get older, your body breaks down. And for a football player, that wear and tear that you did in your 20s and your 30s, it takes its toll when you turn 40 and turn 50. And that is the time where it really affects a lot of players that I've played with, is when they get to the late 40s, early 50s. It's like, where do I go from here? My body's breaking down. How do I adapt to this new lifestyle? Because my knee is, I can't get up in the morning, or my ankle is bothering me. I can't walk. I don't remember things. I mean, all those things come into play. And as you mentioned, I known several players, and a few of them that have taken their own life. One closest to me was Junior Seau. And as a friend and as a teammate, you always want to believe that you could have done more, you should have done more, but you never know what someone is really going through, even the ones that are closest to it. But the brain and the injury to the brain and how it affects you later in life it's a scary thing. And I think part of it, Dr. Roy, is as athletes, you're told and taught to mask the pain, to play through the pain,
Yeah.
to, if you're hurt, then someone else is going to take your job. So you better not be hurt very long. So you go and you play hurt. You play when you have pain. You do all those things, not thinking about yourself when you turn 45 or 55. You're
Right.
not thinking that in your 20s. You're thinking, I just want to play. But
Right.
it definitely takes its toll, and you have to face that fact. And it's hard when you're in your 20s because you do think you're invincible.
What?
But and
What?
as many times as I can tell young guys, hey, at some point you're going to turn 50 and you're going to understand. But in their 20s, it's hard to tell them.
Well, first of all, they're lucky if they live long and healthy enough to be in their 50s
Yeah.
and 60s, right? We
Right.
the COVID-19 pandemic taught us
Yeah.
very quickly that at the drop of a dime, this microscopic virus changed life, stopped life as we knew it, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just have no idea. So and the other point that you brought up so many things, Rodney. When you're in your 20, when you're an adolescent, a young adult, you think you're invincible anyway at
Mhm.
baseline, right?
Yeah.
Nothing's gonna happen to me. And then when you're an elite athlete in the NFL, there's so much at stake. There's all these other kind of pressures and expectations. And to your point, like if they don't play, even if you're in tremendous pain, someone else is going to step right in and take your spot, right? So
Yeah.
that kind of leads me. There's two different directions I'm going to go, but I'm going to go first you talked about the aches, the pains, the hip, the knee, all these musculoskeletal injuries that most athletes. That's what we're most familiar
Mhm.
with as fans. I know that, again, you've been open about it in your long career, in your pro career, 16 years, but you played college, you played high school, you played really all your life. You have had sustained multiple injuries, sprains, thumb, knee, I just hip. I was reading about some of them. I'm curious just how you dealt with all of the injuries, the pain, as a football player at the NFL at the highest level. How do you deal with it in the time? Are you given pain medications, massage therapy, rehab, surgery, physical therapy, and then what's the recovery process like?
Yeah. Well, it certainly evolved to where the guys are now because I think every team has massage therapists now. Even today, I think every team has a not only a physical therapist but a mental therapist as well on staff. So I think that is a good thing, and it's really evolved because it wasn't there when I was playing. I retired 13 years ago.
Yeah.
Actually more than that, but like 17 years ago. But so that wasn't on staff. And yes, pain management. How do you do that? Yeah, you were given pills. You were given things to mask the pain or take away the pain, and guys abused it. Guys
Yeah.
abuse it. So think about that. You have pain when you're playing. You're in the training room. You're playing for a team. You can just walk into the training room and say, my back is hurting, my knee is hurting, my hip is hurting. It's just at night I can't sleep. Give me this, and they give you whatever you want to help you go to sleep, to help you decrease the pain at night. And all of a sudden you retire, you don't have that, but you still
Right.
have the pain. You still have the pain.
Right.
You're not working out like you were playing. Obviously, you're probably eating bad, and yet you still have the pain. So what do? A lot of guys continue with the painkillers, but don't do the exercise part,
Right.
and it becomes a problem. I mean, I can't tell you how many guys when they're done playing become addicted to the painkillers, and that's a huge, huge problem. And so, you know, and it's not easy because anyone they can tell you. So someone can tell you a million times. Somebody that's friendly and close to you. This is what it's like. Got to do this when you retire. You got to do this, 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 and this. Otherwise, you're gonna have problems when you're 50. But unless you experience it yourself, it's hard to really do that. Or have someone that's in your life regularly that says, okay, you got to lose weight. Okay, you got to exercise a little bit more. You're not an athlete anymore, but you got to do something.
Right.
For me, it was getting into yoga, it was getting into stretching. Um, I eventually had to stop drinking. That was a big thing for me. because I would use that as pain management too.
Yeah.
Um, and so, and then eventually I ended up getting my knee replaced after fighting it for so long because we're taught to play through the pain or live through the pain. So
Yeah.
even when my knee was bone on bone, 10 years after I got done playing, I and knee replacements were like a dime a dozen. They were doing them left and right, and they got it down to a science. I still refused to go do it because I thought I could just live through the pain. And then I became really walking. My wife showed me a video of me walking, and I was walking like I rode a horse for 1,000 miles because my legs were bowed out. And it was because I was bone on bone, and the bone had, matured to a level where it would bow.
Yeah.
And so finally, I was like, okay, let me get this done. And I got it done, got my knee replaced, and it changed my life because there was no pain from my knee. Number one, I was able to cut out the painkillers. And then it allowed me to exercise more, to walk freely, to do more things. And it was one of the best decisions I ever made. But again, it goes back to the mentality of what is pain? We can live through the pain when you don't really have to.
Yeah. I'm so glad you brought that up from that perspective. First of
Mm.
all, what you're describing to me is like just the osteoarthritis. I've taken care of so many
Yeah,
patients with to use your expression, bone on bone. I mean, the
yeah,
ligament is gone, the cartilage, it's all damaged and gone, and
yeah,
that is excruciating pain. And so, first of all, thank you for sharing that story, Rodney. A and B, I'm sorry that you lived with that kind of pain for as long
yeah,
as you did. Completely unnecessary. But there are so many other individuals out there that just don't know any better, that do live through pain.
yeah.
It's not just pro athletes, as you know. And, you and I have talked about, just the pain, people becoming dependent on
Hmm.
various types of substances, whether it be opioid painkillers, whether it be alcohol. As you know, and most of my viewers know by now, I specialize in addiction medicine. And what I've
Hmm.
learned about from my patients is that, and from studies clearly showing that people who develop an addiction to whatever substance or behavior, yesterday's episode was on sports betting, or last week's episode was on sports betting, gambling. um, it's not because people are weak or criminal or bad or dumb. People develop addictions almost always to self-medicate their pain
Yeah,
or trauma. That's why it is, right? And
yeah,
to your point about the players that are, they, while they're playing in the NFL or whatever other professional sports league, they get pretty much whatever they're asking for. I'm in
hmm,
pain, give me this. I can't sleep, give me this. But once that career is over, where does that go? They still have the need, right? Their
yeah,
bodies, their brains are still saying, hey, you're still in pain. Hey, you still can't sleep. You're still anxious. You're still, depressed, or whatever the issue may be. But that support system that you talked about, now they have
yeah,
massage therapists, mental health therapists, they have publicists, they have this whole
yeah,
artillery of people supporting them. But once that career is done, they all go away, right?
yeah, yeah. And you have to, once you retire, you got to make sure you have that support system at home, wherever you're going, whether it be your wife, whether it be, your kids, your close friends, family members, somebody that, that's not a yes person as well, because so many guys have those people in their lives. They're like, do whatever. Hey, I've got the money, so my friends are going to do whatever I say to, or tell them to do, because
Right.
they want to be in my lifestyle. They want to hang with me. So
Right.
they're not going to give me that tough love. So you got to have some people that give you that tough love in your life.
Well, I mean, then this is a great segue into like really the psychological aspect of, and the mental health aspect. It's so interesting that you said that now the NFL has mental health specialists, right? They have
Yeah,
mental health professionals that are, so that means, tells me that they're recognizing that the
hmm,
mental health is just as important as the physical health, right? Because
absolutely.
I mean, so I personally, Rodney, identify you as somebody who's really made a pretty successful transition from a pro sports career to navigating to, you were on Fox Sports as a commentator, as a host, you were a reality TV star, you've done so many things. You're on radio now. You're a spokesperson, you're an advocate. what, how do you think you were able to make that transition? How, why, what's your secret, Rodney?
um, that's funny you say that because that is the perception, right? So the reality is there's no secret sauce. It really isn't.
That's why I had it in
Uh,
quotes.
yeah, I was lucky. I was lucky really to have the support system that we just talked about around me when I retired. I had my parents. Um, my brother was still coaching and still is coaching. But I had my wife and I had some close friends that had retired before I did. But mainly my wife and kids were around me. The people that are around you most often can see what you're going through. And it's important for those people to recognize, hey, something's going on with this guy. Something's happening. Let's address it. Let's talk about it. Let's get it out open because um, most men, I will say, don't want to talk about their feelings. Don't want to talk about
Nope.
things that are bothering them. They
Nope.
want to show that stone face. I can handle it. I'm the man. I'm
I'm
strong. Nothing
stoic.
bothers me. Never going to let them see me sweat. Right? That is the attitude. Um,
Sweat, let alone let them
but
see them cry. Forget that.
cry. Exactly. So it is very important because then when I retired, I did. I thought okay, I'm ready to retire. I feel good about it. I played 16 years. I got to a Super Bowl. I made money. I'm good. And I had an opportunity to go on a show on Fox right after I retired. So I had that lined up. I was good to go. Um, Yet I wasn't happy.
Yeah.
And I did that show for Fox called Best Damn Sports Show, which I loved. It was a great show and did that for 5 years. And for those 5 years, I struggled with being at peace with that or being happy with that. I wasn't happy. Even doing the show. It was it was the best gig I could ask for coming off of playing in the NFL career. Being on a sports show that I could talk about sports and entertainment, got paid well, um, still in the public eye, and really got to live at home and didn't have to travel or be on the road because we
Right.
did it in LA.
Right.
Yet I wasn't happy. You know why? Because I was still trying to fill that void of the high I got from playing football. Because there's nothing like it. When you
Yeah.
run out on the field and you hear the fans cheering and you make a play and that excitement of sharing that with your teammates, there's nothing like it.
What is that?
Nothing.
40, 50,000 people screaming?
Yeah. Screaming your name and cheering for you or booing you too.
Yeah.
All of that plays into it. But there's no feeling like it. There's no
Yeah.
joy like it. And so often when we retire, we go, okay, I'm going to go into something that's going to give me that same high. It's going to give me that same joy. When I say
Yeah.
high, I mean the adrenaline rush. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The
That
adrenaline rush that
euphoria.
you play football, that euphoria that you feel. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna open a restaurant. I'm gonna open a nightclub. I'm gonna go back to law school. I'm getting the law. I'm gonna go in the courtroom. It's gonna give me that high. Or no, you know what? I'm gonna go into broadcasting. That's gonna give me that high because I'm gonna be close to the game. It's nothing like it. And if you continue to try to chase something to fill that hole, you'll be chasing the rest of your life
Yeah.
because there's nothing. You have to be able to redirect that passion, redirect what is going to fill that void because football is gone. And if
Yeah.
you search for it in the same way, you'll be lost forever. So I had to come to grips with that. Like, stop trying to chase that.
Yeah.
Find that joy in something else. And what really helped is that my kids started to get older, and I started to watch them play little league and getting involved in their activities. And I started getting similar excitement watching them succeed as I did. So that actually really helped me. But that is my number one thing when guys retire. Say, retire, put it away, go away from someone. Take months or 2 months or however long it takes. Separate yourself from the game.
Yeah.
and do something different that doesn't require you to try to chase the same high because you'll never find it.
Yeah, and don't you think? I mean, Rodney, like 2 months, I would say take 6 months, take a year, take
Yeah,
the
as long as
time,
you have, as long as you
whatever
can. Yeah.
time necessary to really, to your point, readjust and realign your brain to think, okay, now I'm on the next phase of my life. What else do I enjoy? What else brings me passion? Maybe not that same level of euphoria that maybe
Hmm.
that, like, professional sports did, but you know life is short. Let's enjoy it. Let's find out all the other things that I might be good at that maybe I don't even know, right? So and
Yeah.
so you said, so at that time when you were unhappy, the tools, the things that you discovered that kind of helped you get out of that or help you get to a happier place. It seems like you said just watching your kids, reconnecting
Yeah.
back with your family, that helped.
Yeah. That helped a lot. That helped a lot. And I got some tough love from my wife. And, you know, again, same thing. You try to do because those those injuries, that pain that you feel or felt when you were playing, those things don't necessarily always go away. And like, I've got scars. I'm going to always have those scars from playing, from having my knee, blown out or my Achilles tendon torn or anything like that. I'm going to have those scars. I'm going to have that pain. But how do you manage that? What are you going to do to manage that? And so many times, guys will manage it with painkillers or alcohol. And, for me, it was a radical change in my lifestyle and what I was doing to try to mask or handle that type of pain. And a lot of it changed. I mean, the alcohol, the painkillers, giving that up, not easy, right? Not no easy task, but
Yeah,
but
well aware.
but necessary, as you know, necessary. So what do? I like I said, I started doing yoga and stretching. After I was done playing, I gained a lot of weight,
Yeah.
right? And which is easy to do because when you're playing, you're so active, you don't even think about it. You just train, and the weight comes off, right? It's just so,
It's
hey,
effortless.
I'm back in shape effortlessly. And then finally, in your first time in your life, when you're in your late 30s and 40s, you got to deal with a weight issue. Like, what? I've never had a weight issue. I can always lose weight, and then you can't. Like, what do I do? And you go the other way. You try to do quick fixes, or you drink more, or you do a lot of different things because you're in a lot of ways, and this is your expertise, that there's a depression level that sets in
Yeah.
when guys retire from doing something for such a long time.
Well, I mean, first of all, I feel like I should give you one of my diplomas here, my an
Oh
honorary medical
no.
degree, my friend. You're really saying a lot of the same kind of professional advice that I give to patients and the public when it comes to really issues with health, specifically the brain, the body, mental health issues, substance use issues. This is, I wish as a society we treated mental health and substance use disorders, addiction, the same way we treat our heart and our liver and
Yeah,
kidney. And, we just don't.
yeah.
I'm very optimistic that we are going in the right direction. This is why I do the work that I do and having these conversations in a very interdisciplinary manner, talking to like pro athletes. I talk to lawyers, I talk to teachers, I talk to musicians and actors, because we are all human beings. We have all the same needs, same pain and trauma. We go through divorce and unemployment
Hmm.
and all of that, right? So let's create an environment where people feel comfortable to be open. Let's create safe spaces that are non-judgmental. And so people get the evidence-based treatment and care. You were very open about talking about like yoga. You talked about, I believe that you also got the right medical attention. You went to the right doctors, a therapist. I believe you did all of those things to get you on the right track. But not enough people do that. They don't recognize it.
Oh,
They think they're tough, they're going to get over it, or they don't even identify that they even have a problem.
they don't identify. That's such a huge statement you just said. They don't identify that you have a problem because pride gets in the way so often,
Yeah.
especially with men. I keep going back to men because
Yep.
men, we don't like to share our feelings. We don't like to talk about our feelings. We don't like to cry, as you mentioned earlier. Um, but unless you address it, there's no way to heal it. And again, going back to how lucky I am to have a support system, but same thing with therapy.
Yeah.
Going to talk to someone on a regular basis is such a huge deal. I can remember I felt the same way about I'm not. What are you going to shrink my brain? What are you going to do? I don't need a therapist. Like, what's wrong? I'm not crazy. I'm not this.
That's
It's
right.
so much further from the truth going to see someone, but that stigma has been put on therapy and going to see someone about your feelings and thoughts and however you're feeling, that we don't do it. We don't do it.
Yes.
And you know,
To our
again,
detriment.
I was lucky enough that when I met Holly, my wife, before we got married, we actually went to therapy about a relationship and about what it means to be married and how how this was going to how we were going to benefit from this and what the things that and pitfalls that we might face, how do we deal with them. So we started that before we got married, knowing that okay, let's get it all out on the table, so this is something that we can talk about and be open about, and we continued ever since.
Well, I mean, I will tell you what I think your secret has been so far, and because it's what the data shows. The people who have the most positive outcomes in
Mm-hmm.
terms of like health outcomes, mentally, psychologically, physically, people who either take medications, get therapy, like professional help, but they also have what's called connections, support,
Mm-hmm.
and people like your wife. I mean, the brilliant, amazing, phenomenal actress and activist Holly Robinson Peete. You were surrounded by people who were not yes people, right? These were people who
Yeah,
genuinely had your best interest at heart. You know, they weren't unlike say other people in other professional circles. You know, if you weren't playing, they weren't making money, right? If you
yeah,
weren't performing, they weren't getting profits. But people like Holly, your wife, your dad, other people that were in your family genuinely want you to get better. And you know that
yeah.
that part of tough love, of family love, you say what's actually happening to that person's face. And that's at the end of the day what we all need, that sense of support as well as the professional help and support as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it is so important to surround yourself uh, with the right people.
Yeah,
And again, people that are going to shoot you straight and tell you um, and be honest with you about what's going on. And so you can look at yourself in the mirror and go, there's some areas I need to work on, because we're all a work in progress to the day we die, right? So we can continually get better. And it's so important to have um, not how many friends you have, it's the quality of friends you have and people you have,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. It's
So,
not quantity, it's quality. Well,
absolutely.
Rodney, on that note of your incredible wife, Holly, you guys, speaking of your own transition, your other transition, you were in a very successful reality show.
Yeah.
What was that like to be from a football star and now you're on a reality television show with your wife,
Yeah.
Holly?
Yeah, we did that. It's called Meet the Peetes. We did that for about 4 years. And it was different. It was different because, you know, I'm pretty much look, I'm outgoing. I like to hang out. I like to do different things. I like to be out in the public, but I'm also a very private person when it comes to things that are in my private life. And that show, and when you do any kind of reality show, it's so invasive, right? Because they're in your house and there's cameras everywhere. There's cameras that you see, and then there's cameras that you don't see that they set up in your home or wherever you're shooting. And and then there's microphones everywhere, and so it was a learning curve for me to understand that and to allow someone and allow the public and millions of people into your life. um, so it was difficult at first, but at the end of the day, the the mission and the reason why we did the show was not just to gain more fame or anything like that, but it was the catalyst for it all was to share with people about our life. And even though I was a football player, played in the NFL, and my wife has been on TV, and um, we still deal with real life problems and real life issues.
Yeah.
My son was diagnosed with autism at 3. That was a big part of the show is his journey and how we handle that from a family standpoint, from a mother standpoint, from a father standpoint, from a parent standpoint. It was important for us to show the world about this is how we're getting through it.
Yeah.
So another family out there watching could go, man, we just got this diagnosis with autism or whatever it may be. Our life is over. How are we going to deal with it? Nobody's dealing with this like we are. What do we
Yeah.
do? Where do we go? And we were able to shed some light on a lot of that and put some normalcy on it, which for that part, I was extremely happy that we did it. And on top of that, the microphones and cameras though were there, and after about the first 3 or 4 days of it being uncomfortable, you actually forget that they're there. You forget that the cameras and the microphone, you just, because they'll say cut, and yet you still got everything is never cut. It's always rolling.
Well,
And
you became a
say
pro
things
at
and
it.
do things. Oh yeah. Well, no, I didn't become a pro. I just would say things like I would say if nobody was around, which is actually what they want. But
Well, exactly. I guess you could never become a pro on any reality show, but it
no.
clearly was an adjustment from playing pro football.
Oh, big time adjustment. Big time adjustment. I mean, that wasn't my world that I was dipping into. It was hers. But when when you start talking and you're having real conversations, then you kind of flow into what the topic of the day is. And
Yeah.
I think in a lot of ways, we helped a lot of families along that way about just, dealing and navigating through life.
Well, so I think this is a perfect a point to end on, and very meaningful one, Rodney, because you and your wife Holly have both used your respective platforms, sports, entertainment, brought it together to really talk about difficult issues about
Mhm.
health, about family struggles that frankly every family deals with. And by talking about it, really you destigmatize it. And
Yeah.
you have both created the HollyRod Foundation. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So we started the foundation roughly about 24 years ago, 25 years ago. And it was originally started because my father-in-law, Holly's dad, was diagnosed with Parkinson's in his 40s. And at that time, um, it was kind of lumped into everything, right? It was
Yeah.
like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, you name it. It was just
Huntington's.
one, yeah, it was all one thing. And not a whole lot of people knew about it. And so Holly, in dealing with that with her father, really got to understand what Parkinson's is. And we were able to help him. We moved him from New York out to LA. He lived with us. We were able to get him some of the best doctors and best therapists and really helped his quality of life in the last 10 years of his life. But we looked up and goes, there's a lot of families that don't have that kind of resource and can't do it. So we started the foundation to really help those families, and it really we not only we benefited, but the families benefited as well. And then fast forward to when my son was diagnosed, we brought autism into the charity because that was hitting home with us as well.
Yeah.
And similar to Parkinson's, with autism 20 years ago, what is that? Is it ADD, ADHD, all these stigmatisms on all these stigmas on what autism was. And so
Deeply
it was
misunderstood.
very much so, and that people didn't understand it. It was a spectrum, right? And you can fall in
Yes.
many ways in that spectrum. So it was important for us to get the word out, number one, but also understand that we had resources, but there's so many families that needed to try to navigate to find their way with it. So we were able to help a lot of families, especially early on, and getting to the right doctors. Early diagnosis was so key in getting parents to understand the sooner you get your child diagnosed, the better help he can get and the better off he's going to be in the long term.
Yeah.
And so we were able to really create that kind of awareness. And then fast forward, as these kids grow, you got to grow with them. And it
Yeah.
becomes high school, where are they going to go to high school? If they're going to go to college, would they go to college? Job, how are they going to support themselves on their own? So we've
Yeah.
been doing a lot of work lately on vocational training with kids that are on the spectrum and helping them find a skill in order for them to get a job. Because it's been so rewarding for us. And my son, who they said when he was 5, 6 years old that he would never do 8 million things, including he'll never drive, he'll never have friends, he'll never graduate high school, he'll never say I love you, he'll never, the doctor's trying to prepare us, but at the same time it was the doom and gloom day,
Yeah.
right? And so fast forward to now where he's checked all those off the list and he's like, I'm doing my thing. I got my own car, I got my own job, working for the Dodgers. It's life couldn't be better for him right now. So that hope is what we're sending out to the world and to other families.
You know, Rodney, I want to end on that very positive and optimistic note, because what
Yeah,
people like you and Holly do, you give hope, and without that sense of positivity and hope, we really have nothing.
yeah.
Obviously, in addition to that, you're providing funding and resources and education and support. We need all of those things. But Rodney, I thank you so much for using your platform, your celebrity, your fame, your resources, all of that to really make a positive difference on behalf of my patients and the public. I am so grateful to you, my friend.
You got it. Anytime, Dr. Roy. We're friends, and I love what you're doing, and can't wait to talk to you again.
And lastly, who are you cheering for in the Super Bowl?
I got to go with my Eagles. I got to go with the Eagles. I spent 4 years in Philadelphia playing there, so I still have a little bit of my heart is with the Eagles. So I'm rooting for the green.
You got it. You got it. All right, my
All right,
friend. Do be well. Enjoy sunny LA, okay?
you got it. Take care.
Bye. I am so grateful to the incredible Rodney Peete for taking time out of his busy schedule to come on my show just before Sunday's Super Bowl and discuss his long NFL career, as well as share personal stories about pain, injuries, stress, mental health, and the importance of having a strong support system. The NFL still needs to make improvements, according to Rodney, when it comes to player health and safety, but they've made strides in the right direction, such as each team having a mental health specialist. As a doctor, I am thankful to Rodney's participation in the football players' health study at Harvard University, as well as Rodney and Holly's advocacy for Parkinson's disease and autism through the HollyRod Foundation. So how can you get involved? Learn more from trusted organizations like the Harvard Football Players Health Study, the CDC, the National Institute of Neurologic Disorders and Stroke, or NINS, the National Institute on Aging, Autism Speaks, and the HollyRod Foundation. Well, that's all for today. Here's your joke of the day, Super Bowl theme. What kind of desserts will football players be served after the big game? Super Bowl Sundays. Be sure to subscribe to my YouTube show, write comments below, and follow my Instagram at Health Humor Harmony Dr. Roy. Be well. I'll see you soon.